Hello and welcome to the Empowered Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And today is all about the 3 islands of marriage, moving from dysfunction or function to connection.
And I know you're already wondering, which island are we on? And are we the only ones? Here's the thing. When couples come to us, whether to our in-person workshop, they come for private sessions, a lot of times they're wondering, even subconsciously, is what we're going through, quote unquote, normal? Are we the only ones that experience this? Or just how do we get to a different place, a different season? And one of the things we want you to experience from all of our episodes, but especially today, is like this sigh of relief, knowing that all couples go through seasons where they don't feel like they're on track. They're not on Connection Island, which we're going to describe more about that you might be in a harder place and you aren't alone. And I know that the people you follow online, they might not be posting about that because everyone posts the highlight reel. Maybe your friends don't openly talk about the things that happened for them behind closed doors, and maybe you think their relationship is great, but we see the ins and outs of what couples experience. And great couples, hardworking people who love their family, love each other, they're good people, and they just get off track. So we want you to feel hopeful, encouraged, know that you're not alone, but also know that it's going to take effort, focus, commitment to do the things that we're going to describe to get from, if you're on Dysfunction Island or Function Island, which we're going to define and outline for you, it's going to take effort and commitment to get to Connection Island. It's not just time. And that's what we really need to break the illusion of, is this idea that just time passing is going to get you to a great place.
So marriage is a journey that is marked by seasons or transitions. Now, most people relate to these seasons or transitions from the outside circumstances changing. And certainly this is a part of what causes it. Where we're really passionate and focused is the transition into parenthood and all that that brings. But there are other life seasons, not that we're going to cover those specifically today, but it might be changes to your own health, a family member's health. It could be professional changes. Maybe you make a move. Maybe it's your kids reach a certain age, like college, and they move out. So a lot of different transitions, but your experience going through that transition, that's what we're talking about in terms of these islands of marriage. They are the states or experiences you are having together that are usually caused by these transitional periods. So you can be in a state where your marriage feels very connected. You can be in a place where you feel it's functional. You can also move into a place where it is dysfunctional. What we want you to get is that a marriage will go through these transitions in states, not just the external. And it's not a specific problem when you go from, say, connection to function, or say function to disconnection or dysfunction. It's that you recognize it quicker and then you take the steps that we're going to outline today to just move to the next one.
Yes. Okay, so let's define these, and then we're going to really describe, in a sense, how to get to the next island. But remember, it's going to take effort and commitment, not just time. So Aaron, why don't you first describe what Dysfunction Island is like?
Dysfunction Island can often start like when you become parents, where there are big changes to your lifestyle. Now, as parents, there's the obvious changes in demands from a child or an infant. So sleep, how you operate during the day, care, feeding,
New roles.
changes. So many new roles and responsibilities that fall to each the mother and the father. And then there is this time where those feel kind of disruptive. And so, yes, then you don't go to the gym. So you have different health things on top of that. What happens is there's a real breakdown in the structure of your lifestyle. And so then, as you've listened to us in the past couple of weeks, these external stressors can put pressure on the marriage, and then the way you handle them become relational stressors.
Mhm.
The relational stressors, like being short with each other, your love accounts going low, these changes in responsibilities not being clearly articulated, that you don't have specific agreements in place, there's a lack of follow through, it's kind of confusion, things are assumed, then all of that causes your interactions to feel more short, more tense, more brash. It takes away from your love account. The more that goes down, you feel the distance, the disconnection, even into a place where maybe you feel resentful. So it's marked by even a sense of chaos that we're just literally trying to triage everything to survive and keep it together.
Mhm.
So, depending on the transition, whether it's parenting, whether it's career, whether it's personal health, family member health, it'll show up slightly different. But moving into the dysfunction island is really marked by that lack of structure, unclear roles and responsibilities, lack of agreements, sharper moments, and then you really start to take away from each other's love accounts. And you also then feel like you don't have time to repair. So when you're doing this kind of hurt and damage, you're also not repairing it. So that builds up.
And I would also add, it is a time where there tends to be either more frequent or more escalated conflicts.
Right, right.
Right. So, because there's this breakdown in your communication, because things feel chaotic, because, maybe you aren't adapting well to the change, whether that is the transition to parenting or it's the transition to 3 kids, or it's your kids going to college, as Aaron described, or it is a health challenge, whatever it is that is putting pressure on the relationship. If you're not adapting well, if you aren't refining your communication skills and you're defaulting to old patterns that either you picked up from childhood, past relationships, then you will experience this high conflict time. And it feels like, man, every other day we're either arguing or we are getting more escalated. Why are simple things becoming such a big deal? And this is, we aren't going to sugarcoat it. This island of dysfunction feels hard. Now, we want you to again feel encouraged and hopeful. You do not have to stay stuck on Dysfunction Island. The only way that you stay stuck on this island is if you do nothing. If you just think, you know what, this is who I am, take it or leave it. If you have a very kind of rigid mindset, if you're unwilling to work on yourself, which there are people out there that are unwilling. However, the majority of the people that we meet are very willing, have a growth mindset, want to be the best person, parent, partner they can be. And I'm guessing if you're listening to this podcast, you're one of those people. So again, Dysfunction Island, although it feels really hard, and I would say that nearly all couples go through at least one of these seasons where they feel like they're on Dysfunction Island. It doesn't have to last long. And that's what we want to support you in, is how to move then from Dysfunction Island to Function Island. And I want you to know that it's okay if you feel like you've been on Dysfunction Island more than once. There's no shame in that. There's nothing to think, are we doomed? Is there something wrong with us? Is there something wrong with my partner or me? It really comes down to the choices that you make and having that growth mindset.
And the dysfunction island is a place that neither partner can stay for a long period of time. So it is imperative that you catch this and you both commit to the things you need to do individually and together to move to the island of function. This may feel like you're just really surviving, but it's really the island defined by high reactivity. And look, you just can't live there. Your nervous systems are fully activated and you have to move yourself to Function Island.
Yeah, because it's not harmonious, right? And you need to do the things to get to a place of harmony.
So before we describe Function Island, let's talk about the things to do to move from dysfunction, because it'll give you a sense of like what Function Island is then. So because you've had these disruptions to your lifestyle, maybe roles and responsibilities have changed, higher conflict times, the main thing you need to do is to notice. This is something we go into in our coaching, but essentially notice your conflict cycles, which is really your patterns of reactivity. You have to start to see that all of these changes for you individually are causing these patterns of reactivity, of your fear and reaction cycles. So it's not about what you feel, like disrespected or controlled or unheard. The problem is how you react to all those things. You yell, you shut down, you retreat, you demand,
You're
you
passive
criticize.
aggressive. Mhm.
That is the main thing you each individually have to catch and say, I am not going to participate in the reactionary cycle that I'm now defaulting to. And that's the primary thing that each of you need to notice, catch your own pattern, and commit to, I'm not just going to react.
So that's huge.
Mhm.
And that really, anytime you do feel like you might be backtracking to Dysfunction Island, that is the thing to focus on, what Aaron just described. Okay, I am going to interrupt my default reactions. I'm not going to feed into the conflict cycle. And before I go to the next point of bridging to Function Island, as we describe that, some of you might say, okay, wait, what's that? What is that conflict cycle you're just describing?
Mm.
What are some examples of the fears to reactions? That would be a whole hour-long explanation, which we did already explain it. So one resource I want to refer you to before we go on is watching our 1-hour marriage web class on the 5 root causes of conflict and disconnection, because it's visual. We can actually show you visually what happens in the conflict cycle, your fears, your reactions, and the root causes of conflict. And we did a whole training on that. It's free, by the way. So go to meetthefreemans.com/links, and you'll see that as one of the resources linked there. So that's huge. The next piece that's so crucial for moving from dysfunction to Function Island is, through your communication, creating very clear agreements.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do we mean by agreements? Well, really, if you think about what a marriage is in terms of functioning well, it is a set of agreements. Hey, here's how we want to operate in life. Here's how we want to flow. It's almost like picking the style of dance. Because if one of you was trying to do a lyrical slow dance and the other person was trying to do jazz or hip hop at the same time, you would not be working well together. I know that's kind of a funny visual, but that's often like what Dysfunction Island feels like. It's like we're doing 2 different dances. We are not even on the same page of what music we're listening to. So in order to feel more in flow, more at peace, you have to be very clear about how do we want to operate and flow together. So this means getting specific about, especially the areas where there is conflict. So is it about roles and responsibilities around the house? Okay, get very clear. Don't work on any kind of assumptions. You have to get so specific with who's responsible for what. And don't worry, we're going to get you to Connection Island, because I know you're already thinking, wait, this sounds like we're just like business partners. Well, part of marriage is being business partners, your life partners.
Well, especially if you're going from dysfunction to function,
Yes.
because the goal of function is to bring relief and peace.
Yep.
So you need to, of course, as we already mentioned, you have to catch your patterns of reactivity. So some of your agreements might even be around agreements for times of conflict, that, you know what, we notice what escalates things. It's the raising of our voice, it's yelling, it's maybe swearing,
Name
it's
calling.
name calling, it's just leaving the room. So if you can catch some of the things that escalate, then you turn those into conflict agreements.
Yep.
Now, some of these other agreements will be relative to the type of transition you're in. So whether it is parenting, then some of your agreements also based on the time of parenting. Are you in the newborn phase, toddler? Are you in adolescence, teen, emerging adult, young adult? So you need to really identify where are the specific areas that we're missing clear guidelines and structure? So again, in the early days, it might be around like who gets up with the baby. It could be around cleanliness of the house and organization. It could be on time for work if you're at home versus time together. It's really defining those things and getting to a place where your clarity on your agreements, and this is like point 2B, your individual commitment to follow through on those agreements regardless, like shoot for 100%.
Yep.
You make an agreement, you follow through on your end. That added structure and reduction in reactivity is what will bring relief, and your follow through brings a level of trust and security and peace. And I'll tell you, if you're in dysfunction, those things will make you feel so much better because things are getting done. They're not causing big disruptions. You start to count on each other because you've been clear. Hey, here's what we each need. Here are the agreements. We follow through. You really start feeling like a team.
I want to also add two parts here because a big theme we see with couples that we work with, because the majority are parents, because we're parents and I think people relate to us, so we tend to attract a lot of clients who are. When you are in the parenting stage where they're past the baby stage and now they're becoming a person, and now you've got to handle how do we want to shape their character? How do we want to handle big feelings? How do we want to quote unquote discipline, which really discipline is about helping them learn, not punishment when you really think about the best type of parenting. So it's like, how do we want to shape our kid? A lot of couples will argue and have conflict around parenting. So even having agreements for how we're going to parent and then following through on that. And you can't just fix that in the heat of the moment. You can't do it when the kid's having a breakdown. Now you're getting dysregulated and your partner's getting dysregulated. That's not the time to come up with the game plan. You've got to sit down together and say, hey, okay, when our kiddo is having big feelings, whether they are 3 or 13, because let's be real, teenagers have big feelings too. They're learning a lot. How are we going to handle it? What's going to be our game plan? How are we going to support each other, back each other up? So I wanted to add that as an additional talking point for you guys. If you are parents and it's ever a source of conflict, because we see that all the time. The other agreements to talk through from moving Dysfunction Island to Function Island is how can we help de-escalate things with each other? And yes, Erin brought up the agreements for times of conflict, which is also something we talk about in our web class, by the way. But also, it's like emotional intelligence skills. How are we going to help each other when the other person's dysregulated? How can we help not make each other more flooded and upset in those moments? And so that's really coming up with understanding each other, supporting each other, really being a united team. And because we want to provide you with tools and steps you can take to make this very practical, because I know a lot of you listen to this podcast, you get inspired, you get motivated, and then maybe you don't know how to implement it. And so, yes, take notes from this episode and attempt to have these conversations. But if you want even more structure, like for us to break it down, besides the web class that I already mentioned, that's free, the next resource I would suggest is the Rebuilding Us Challenge. Specifically, if you are feeling like you need to work from Dysfunction Island to Function Island, the Rebuilding Us Challenge is our level 2 challenge for couples to get daily prompts from us for 30 days. If you're in more of a repair and rebuilding stage of your marriage, and we break it down into daily coaching. So that's also linked at meetthefreemans.com/links. So I want to make sure you guys have as many resources as you can to bridge to the next island.
So then here you are on Function Island, and it's great because there's relief and peace. There's kind of harmony. There's structure and follow through. So here becomes the next problem. A marriage is not meant to be a functional relationship only. That's when if it goes on too long, you start to feel like just roommates or business partners. And so, what you need to recognize is that marriage needs to keep moving forward to the island of connection. Other problem here is what we have seen, there's a difference between how long men versus women are willing to exist in the function island.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe because, women, as we know, tend to lean more towards relationships and nurturing, and men more about fixing problems and solutions. Then it makes sense. It's like we solve the problems of dysfunction. So men tend to be okay living in this kind of peaceful, more harmonious state, which again is great coming from dysfunction. But if you've been in this too long, women start to feel, I would say first, that there's got to be this movement towards meeting more emotional needs of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the timing on this is going to be much different. Women will feel the need to move from function to connection much sooner, usually, than men. So I just wanted to outline that because recognize that and then taking the steps going forward, it's about building the emotional closeness and the connection through understanding what are the needs that you each have for this particular season. Because what you needed or what your partner needed in a different season, like newborn phase, is different than what you need for a child that's 13 or just being older yourself or being in a different location. Just being together in your relationship will bring about different desires and needs from the relationship and from life.
Yeah.
So number one, you have to be communicating with each other about, hey, what are your needs now? And starting to understand what are the most needle moving needs that you can take action on to better meet the emotional needs of your partner for this season that you're in.
I want to describe a little bit more about Function Island and add to what you were just describing of moving to Connection Island. The Function Island can feel like roommates. And another big thing that we notice is that it's a time when you both start to feel taken for granted. So you're out of the high conflict stage, but you start to just kind of feel like, man, do they really see my efforts? Do they really see all that I do? That's when maybe when you do disagree or argue, you might even keep score. You might bring up do you even see everything I do? So again, it's not maybe as escalated or frequent of conflicts when you're in Dysfunction Island, but when you do have conflict, a lot of it becomes about, do you see me? Do you appreciate me? Do you love me?
Scorekeeping.
Yeah, scorekeeping. And so when you stay on Function Island, it starts to almost just feel like, yeah, we're fine, but we're missing those extra gestures that show, I am so grateful to be with you. I love spending time with you. I want to do something fun. I'm thinking of you. And so in that Function Island, you can, just kind of feel like, oh, we, watch TV at night and, we go out with the kids and we run errands. And this is like a peaceful, nice life. But like Aaron described, by nature, what we want as human beings is connection. It's aliveness, it's vitality, it's experience, it's companionship. It's really, like Aaron and I describe at times, like we want to squeeze the juice out of life. And I will say, I feel like the world right now and just the whole tendency to kind of keep up with the Joneses, which that's an American term. So people who live in other countries, it's like this term to describe just kind of keeping up with the times, right? Got to have a bigger house, more cars, best school for our kids, that it becomes so much about acquiring more and better. And so then everything becomes about work and money and filling our calendar. And that isn't going to feel that fulfilling necessarily. So by nature, though, we want fulfillment, we want connection. So what does this mean? It means really taking a look at your life, your lifestyle, your priorities, and saying, are we living the life we both really envision? And I think this would be a really connecting conversation to have together is, okay, yes, we can be so grateful for what we have, for our family, for our health, everything, but are we on track with living the most fulfilling, vibrant, connecting life? If not, then we need to adjust our priorities because your priorities aren't what you say, they are what you do. So you might say all day long to people, oh, yeah, my priority is my family and giving them great experiences. But if you look at your calendar, you're working, and then you put the kids to bed. And so you've got to just really check in and say, are our priorities reflected in our time? If not, then we need to make changes. And we must, this is really the biggest thing I'd want you to take away, especially if you are parents listening to this episode. You have to prioritize your relationship. We see so many couples, again, who are hardworking, love each other. And because they put off their relationship for so long, raising kids, trying to give them the best life that they can give them, that they lose sight of loving each other well. And to maintain that sense of love and connection, you actually have to put effort into it. You have to think about, what are the things that can make my partner feel special? They can make them feel like I thought of them, the show I want to spend time with them. And so you actually will feel this pull, almost like life pulls you to Function Island. You actually have to maintain effort, almost like you're just continuing to row to Connection Island. You have to know that you don't just stay on Connection Island because you marry the right person. We've seen and you probably follow people online that you were shocked that maybe they parted ways and you're like, oh my God, they looked like they had the most beautiful life, beautiful family. What happened? And of course, you might not know everything that happened behind closed doors, but one thing we would probably bet a lot of money on is they did not maintain the effort to stay on Connection Island. So think about, what are our priorities? Is that reflected in our time? Are we making our relationship a priority, each other a priority? Are we maintaining love and connection? Now, I know Aaron has some things he wants to add, but because we're trying to give you next steps from this episode, making sure you have action items. If you really are trying to work from Function Island to Connection Island, or trying to stay on Connection Island, the resource that we'd recommend here is our Prioritizing Us Couples Challenge. So I mentioned Rebuilding Us before. Prioritizing Us provides prompts focused on love deposits, making each other feel appreciated, seen, and staying connected through conversation prompts, connection prompts. So that you can also find at meetthefreemans.com/links.
So there was a lot there that was moving you to Connection Island from Function. One of the other things that needs to happen early on would also be looking back at the things that were not repaired from the time that you were in Dysfunction Island, or potentially just existing on Function. There are likely some things that you need to have some repair conversations around. So repair is a common thing you hear from the Freemans. So any of the resources that you find at that links reference, go there. So we're not going to repeat repair. But to really feel connected, you can't just move on to these things without addressing the ways of being or the behavior that you had previously. Repair, when done to completion, which to completion, once again, we have 5 R's to repair. So, go find the resource for that. What you get at the end of repair is connection. It's a deep connection. It requires vulnerability. It requires responsibility through repair. And if you can do that together, there's so much connection there. And it's not the connection that people think of when they consider fun, joyful dates and trips. That is connecting, but it's deeply connecting when you're vulnerable with each other, when there is that responsibility for ownership and saying, hey, I see how I've either hurt you or I've led us to a place where we've just been functioning a long time and you didn't feel prioritized. I own that, and I'm going to make some changes and give reassurance that the relationship can feel more fulfilling and more connected. That's deeply connecting. So again, connection is not just something that we categorize through positive events and interactions. there's this forgetting that like repair brings deep connection to each other.
I'm so glad you said that. And that reminds me, because I know some of you might think, oh, wait, are we not on Connection Island if we argue from time to time or we get triggered by each other? That's not the case. We don't want to portray Connection Island means there's zero conflict and it's always peaceful and perfect and happy days. Connection Island still includes hard moments. You're going to be human forever. There is no happily ever after without any hard moments.
But the difference is how you experience those moments.
Yes.
Marriage in all its seasons will have conflict. In dysfunction, it feels very disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
In function, it can feel kind of significant. In connection, they can almost feel like little road bumps. And the further you are in Connection Island, the more you can even see those as places you're grateful for because you know the growth and the potential and the learning lessons from it.
Mm-hmm.
So in Connection Island, it's the feeling of, yes, lots of joy, lots of connection. Your love accounts are very, very high. And it is almost independent of the circumstances you're actually going through. You can actually be going through really hard outside external circumstances and feel that your love accounts, your connection is at 8, 9, or even 10.
Mm-hmm.
And that when you hit these challenges or you have a conflict, you have security.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question. It doesn't give you a wobble experience of, am I safe to share, the emotional safety. You have all the security and trust that, okay, this happened, but we're going to talk through this. My partner is on my side. And again, for like smaller ones, you might not even notice some of the blips that you would have taken as serious back when you were in Dysfunction Island.
Mm-hmm.
So the main thing we really want you to get is the experience that you're having together of life's challenges are very relative to the island that you're on.
Yep.
Things will feel very disruptive and disconnecting and significant if you're back in dysfunction. Function, I think you got the point, and then connection. So that's why this is so important, because as we said in the beginning, your marriage is going to go through these seasons of transitions. But the experience you have in them will be wildly different depending on the island that you're on.
And the other really key thing to take away from this is that you don't just stay on an island by accident. Like you're not going to just stay on Connection Island because you're with the right person. And you also aren't going to just magically move from Dysfunction Island to Connection Island now because your kids are older. Because that's what we hear all the time. Oh, we'll be fine just when the kids get older. Well, that might help with the stressors that you're facing. That doesn't mean you're actually building towards connection. So if you can take that away, none of this is by accident. None of this just magically happens itself. It really comes down to the things that we are implementing and practicing every single day. It is all of the choices that you make. I'm talking in the micro interactions, how you're interacting in the kitchen, how you're getting the kids ready for bed, and the way you're interacting with each other. It is how you handle conflict. All couples experience some kind of friction, tension, disagreements. If you feel like yours are more frequent or escalated, then you've got to go back and listen to the part that we described of moving from dysfunction to function island. There's no magical recipe. There is no I'm with the perfect person. It comes down to two people doing the work. That's really it, being a team player. So I think we'll start to wrap up because this was a lot in here.
Then, let me finish with this then. It's kind of more advanced. I was thinking we were just going to end without saying it, but I'm just going to go for it.
Okay.
There is, in Connection Island, there is an idea of sacrifice. You may have thought this would have been in the Function Island, but it's really the idea that you start to sacrifice things of lower value for higher value. You start to sacrifice things that keep you in the function and routine for the things that will bring you connection, love, and joy. And it's an interesting thing to think about because you rely on some of the agreements and the consistency in your follow through and routine to stay on Function Island. But in connection, you have to start to think we're not just in this to function only.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for Aaron Freeman. Aaron Freeman can go downstairs and functionally start to clean the dishes and organize the kitchen.
He loves it.
But I have to start to think about, how's Jocelyn? How is our relationship? And be willing to sacrifice a thing like organization for grabbing your hand, sitting on the couch, checking in with you, just like we did today. Have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
How's your emotional state? How could I support you? And show your partner that you're willing to sacrifice things in the routine, in the function, because you care more about them, their experience, and their needs than you do just about managing a household and getting things done.
I'm so glad you said that, because it really, sometimes it does come down to the priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this season of life, what are the priorities? And your relationship cannot be one of the things that you sacrifice. And just to reiterate, that's what we see so often, is that couples will sacrifice their relationship for something else, thinking that it's just this thing you can kind of like put on the shelf and, oh, it'll just be there. No, it can really degrade and erode.
So the last thing, take this sacrifice idea even further, is that you also want to start sacrificing the things that aren't leading you to the most, and you kind of talked about this a little bit, the most fulfilling life and relationship you could have.
Yeah.
So now you start to look at your life and say, everything we've done up until now is great. Like, look at where our children are at, look at their development, look at what we modeled. And for the next season ahead, is this the life that we want? Because if we stayed in function, or if you only stayed in being connected through making love account deposits while basically keeping your life the same, maybe one or both of you feel like, I really wanted like more from my life. And maybe you feel like your spirit is calling more from you, that your purpose, what you came here for, there's a different expression. So you want to start to really have these kinds of conversations about what would really bring us the most joy, what would bring us the most fulfillment, to feel like we were on purpose and to feel that spark of passion that we were both pursuing things that really lit us up. And two people that pursue that is an amazing marriage to have. And it's one of the key reasons why to truly be married, because walking side by side with someone where you both mirror the places that you can each grow and set out on a path to fulfill on the most fulfilling life that you can, that is significant from obviously having a marriage that only exists in dysfunction or function, or living a life of solidarity.
I'm inspired by that. Thank you. I'm moved by this conversation, because this is what it's all about. Like, don't forget the point. Don't forget the point of life, of partnership. So we really hope that you take this conversation to heart, that you use this as an opportunity to reflect on, okay, where are we now? But also knowing you have a place to get that's even better. And that's what's hopeful. That's what's inspiring. And that you have the power, both of you listening to this episode, both of you doing the work of implementing the things. And yeah, there's more work to do. This isn't a simple formula. It's not let's give you the 3 steps that it takes effort and work every single day to get from each island to Connection Island. And that's why we gave you resources to implement from there. So as a reminder, for all of our resources to get from any of these islands to Connection Island is at meetthefreemans.com/links. Make sure you go there and find your next best resource from our challenges, that 1-hour marriage web class. We've got an in-person couples workshop coming up this weekend, and we can't wait to meet everyone who's registered. If you're listening to this episode, we might have 1 spot left, maybe, when you are listening. So go check that out, because maybe you can just attend last minute. or get on the wait list for a private session. We have an array of resources. Make sure you are looking at all of them and utilizing them. Again, it's meetthefreemans.com/links. And if you take away value from our podcast, it would help so much if you would give us a 5-star rating on whichever platform that you're listening on. That truly is how we reach more people. We're so grateful that you're here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can hear past and future episodes. We've got so much more coming for you. You guys, we have so many exciting announcements coming up. Like, you have to stay tuned in because there are things we can't even tell you about yet that are so exciting, so life-changing. Oh, I just can't wait till we can give you the exciting news. So make sure that you're staying plugged in, but we're so grateful that you're here, and we will talk to you on the next episode.